Hey there, everyone, and welcome to the 2025 astrological overview for the sign of Taurus. So, if you're a Taurus or you have Taurus rising, then this is the video for you. In this video, I'm going to be just hitting some of the major transits that you're going to be experiencing in 2025, but most importantly, what you can do with them. That's what it's all about. Before I get right into this though, I want to just share with you that in November, so November 23 of 2024, I'm going to be giving a one-day astrology retreat workshop on the astrology of 2025. So if you are in Brisbane or you can get here, I'd love to see you. We're going to be talking the astrofat all day, going through all of the major hits with the astrology, workshopping it, figuring out how it's going to work for each individual. And then, of course, hopefully, we'll all have some energy to maybe have dinner and a drink afterwards and get to know each other. So I'll pop a description in or a link in the description below. You can find out about that and then sign up. I will probably be doing an online version of that, at the very least, a webinar. But if you would like more personal information about the astrology and how it's going to relate to your chart next year, a reading is the way to go. And so I'll put a link there below as well. So let me share a quick view of the sky for you in 2025. So the big hitters I've just got here, you'll have Uranus exiting out of your first into your second. We'll have Saturn and Neptune will be exiting out of your 11th temporarily. And then, of course, they'll go into the 12th and back into the 11th. Pluto's going to be a mainstay. Jupiter's going to hit the second and the third. And Mars is going to go all the way from Cancer through to Sagittarius. So together, this is there's a lot of internal energy happening for you in 2025. So the change, the chaos, the breakdowns, and the breakthroughs that you've been experiencing since 2018 are going to start to calm down a bit. So basically, between 7 July and November 8, Uranus will be out of your sign and into Gemini. It's coming back, and that will happen from November to April of 2026. But point being is that when Uranus isn't there, it's going to give you an opportunity to self-reflect. What changes have you implemented in the last 7 years that have either been really helpful for you and you're wanting to build upon that? Maybe some of those changes have been, oh God, I'm never doing that again. Stay away from me type of stuff. And then, of course, you might recognize uh, the areas where you've lacked a little bit of risk, a little bit of change. So even though Uranus is going to exit Taurus, it's coming back. So you will get another bite of that apple, so to speak. So that reflective period can be very helpful for you to figure out what changes do you need to make. And this isn't just about change. I mean, changes, schmanges, but it's more this personal stuff. What is authenticity and what does that mean for you? How have you been holding back in terms of your individuality, what you want to share, what you want to offer? What have you been really reluctant to do, maybe really stubborn, resistant, digging your heels in? If you're feeling restless, if you're feeling irritated, if you're wanting change, for example, and you're not sure where, how, or what to do, Uranus's break from Taurus, again, July to November, can help you figure out what that is. But for some Taurians, they might be thinking, oh, I just don't want to have to deal with that second 6 months from end of 2025 through to 2026. But I'd also want you to keep in mind that as a fixed rising, sometimes the greatest risk is to take no risk at all. So you are going to be asked to make changes, to take risks, to do something that maybe you'll kind of want to do, but you're a bit afraid or a bit scared to do. So this reflective period is going to be really helpful for you to move towards being your true, unique, and individualized self. So speaking of self-reflection, you'll also have Venus, who is your patron planet, being the ascendant ruler, will also have a retrograde phase. Now, this retrograde phase will cover two signs. It'll start in Aries, which is your 12th house, and then it will also backtrack into Pisces. So that retrograde phase is going to start around March 2 through till about April 12. Now, during this period of time, a couple of things are going to happen. You may long for more time alone, more time in reflection to really dig deep and figure out, how you're going to attack, what your game plan is for 2025. So this is a good opportunity to do that. You'll also see Venus retrograde into your friendship sector, your 11th house. And when it does, it's going to connect with the North Node 3 times. So that's a big one. So that'll be February and April. And what you're going to be really asked to do then is to connect the dots and really move towards something you're pulled to or you're drawn to. And the self-reflection piece is going to help you figure out what that is. So you will also have Mars pushing through the 3rd house through until the 8th. So Mars will have it does a lap of your chart every 2 years. So every calendar year, we'll see Mars sort of spend time in sort of one zone of your birth chart. So in 2025, it's pretty much doing the lower half of your birth chart. So again, it's leaning into that general thrust or energy or motivation of the year being more on the personal or the private side. So there's a few things here that's kind of indicating that this year is going to be a little bit more calm than maybe some of the ones you've had previously. So it might be important as the year begins to really narrow down your focus into a few key areas of life. Don't spread yourself too thin. And so obviously some self-development and growth and really connecting in with yourself. And that might have stuff to do with the 12th house, a little bit of the 11th. So the inner space, the inner world, the self-talk, those subconscious fears and phobias, maybe something to do with friendships, connections, opportunities, and stuff like that. And then the 3rd house, where Mars is retrograding through, what do you have to learn? What do you have to change up with your daily rhythms and routines? So when it comes to the topic of money in 2025, that's kind of where some really big energy is happening for you. So you'll have the continuing cycle of Jupiter in Gemini, and this is going to help you pursue new opportunities for growth. And that growth in particular is going to be in terms of sustenance, money, abundance, all those things that sustain you. Jupiter and Gemini is probably encouraging you by now to already tap into the flow of money. As I've been speaking to you, there would have been trillions of dollars circling the earth, and Jupiter and Gemini is teaching you how you can tap into that energy. So you might want to learn more about how money works and also what your relationship to it is. Jupiter's encouraging you to think big, to say yes, to grasp at opportunities, even if it is a little bit just saying yes and figuring out the finer points as you go. So Uranus in Gemini, so as it leaves your 1st house, it's going to dip its toes into your money house. And so you're going to be introduced to what money is going to look like for you over the next 7 years between July and November. So this is an introductory cycle, and I do implore you or suggest to you that you make the most of it to be able to go beyond what you would normally do. This is a habit breaker, a change maker, an awakening type of transit. Uranus will provide the right conditions for you to embrace innovation and change when it comes to essentially getting financial freedom. So this might help you to encourage, say, for example, a innovative changes around money. It might help you take a calculated risk. Uranus and Gemini will encourage you to adopt new ideas about how you spend, how you save, how you earn, and potentially how you invest money as well. You know, what are you doing with what you get, how you can make the most of it, and how you can generate more of it. So you might discover this year that you consider doing something, maybe freelancing or the gig economy. I don't know what the in word is for that now, but when Uranus hits a money zone, it is how can I earn differently? How can I go against the grain of whatever the norm is? So you might, you know, for you, it might be that you're already doing something independent, but stability for you might mean going back to some work. That is a possibility, but most likely it's going to be breaking away from the status quo of traditional earning and then moving into something that is perhaps entrepreneurial spirit, maybe become unlocked. You might experiment with how to earn with more flexibility, how to change up the time for money equation in your life. And that might mean creating some innovative ways to develop a passive income or to have a sideline project. And really, the idea with Uranus is freedom. And how can you get more freedom with money? And what changes do you need to make with that? So whatever you put in motion in 2025 could really set you up for success in 2026. So the Jupiter cycle that you're currently in is teaching you. It's hopefully expanding you and also maybe putting a little bit more meat on the bones, so to speak, so you can afford to maybe take a little risk next year, invest something, pay something down. You know, sometimes financial freedom is simply having no debt. So that could be that pesky credit card that just never gets paid down. Maybe it's, you know, that sort of paycheck to paycheck, and you just need to do something different. And that is going to be different for each person. It really depends on what the circumstances are. Case in point, it's doing something different. And the cycle that you're in right now, it's about learning, being curious about money, and how you can make it work for you. Now, with Gemini on the second house cusp, usually where we find Gemini, we find two. So you might need to develop a passive income, that sideline project, or taking advantage of an investment opportunity. So if Jupiter's bringing a little bit extra in, can you put that aside and then invest it in something? So that might be some shares, that might be some whatever opportunity comes your way. So for some people, it might even be, well, I'm going to invest that, have my own website, and hang out my astrology shingle. So whatever it is, it could be a multitude of things depending on your circumstances. So your home life is going to be in focus when Mars moves through Leo, and that happens from the 18th of April to the 17th of June. So Mars comes back to Leo after it's been there late 2024, very, very early 25, and then returns in April. So it picks up the pace after a slow start as this year becomes next year. So those projects, those plans that either got stalled, delayed, or tabled could be back on the agenda come April. So you might decide then to tackle some projects around the home, you know, anything that you've been stalling, plodding along with, or refusing to tackle. Mars may give you that energy and that motivation to really go for it. Mars in your home zone, this only happens once every 2 years. So this might help you take action around reinvigorating family dynamics, whether those are your family members that you live with or relatives. So, and And it might also help you to take some action around the living arrangements, whomever you live with, or who might want to live with you, or who you might want to live with. But it's about changing things up when Mars pushes through there. So there'll be a lot of action and progress over things that just didn't come off the ground as 2024 became 2025. So that pace really picks up, then it will slow down a bit. And that slowdown will happen from the 18th of July through to the 11th of August because Mercury will be retrograde in Leo. So things are going to go awry on the home front. This could be paperwork, your scheduling with, the people you live with, anything to do with trades or people around the home. And so this could be a really frustrating cycle because you just got used to things moving a lot faster and then they slow down. So this is just going to ask you to be patient because the second chances will come from 11th of August through to September 2 once Mercury's back on track. So Mercury retrograde is, it's never a terminal situation. It's just a frustrating one. So there's a lot of energy in that home area from April through to September. Relationships are also featured in 2025, and that's mainly through your relationship ruling planet being Mars moving into Scorpio again for the first time in 2 years. This happens from September 22 to November 4. This can really help promote connection, collaboration, and togetherness. And this can be in a personal relationship, spouse, partner, or it could also be in a platonic professional setting as well. So Mars in Scorpio is going to ask you to be upfront. Mars in your seventh house is going to be an assertive energy, going for what you want, taking initiative with things. However, Mars is a little salty and you're sweet being ruled by Venus, right? So you might have to create that delicate balance between the salty and the sweetness between you and someone else. So as you are assertive, as you are practicing taking initiative, it might put other people on the back foot. So you're having to be confident rather than being a bulldozer. Maybe you need to be more willing to work at somebody else's pace rather than sort of setting the pace. So it's an interesting dynamic that's taking place. And you'll have a little bit of a Mercury retrograde going through, 2 hits from Mercury. So 7th of October, 7 to the 29th of October. And in that time, you're going to have a Mars-Mercury conjunction. So that's going to be a big one. So that could be arguments, really breaking down communication stuff with people. The 19th to the 30th of November, you'll still have some Mercury retrograde there, energy there as well, because Mercury crosses over 2 signs. So you'll need to be clear, you'll need to be honest and upfront with communication. So if somebody is being maybe a little bit deeper with you than you're used to, or maybe if someone's basically the message here is don't be avoidant, particularly with Mars. Step up to the plate. If you want something in a relationship, ask for it. If you don't want something in a relationship, say so. So it's not so much about just going with the flow. And it's going to take time. Mercury retrograde is going to take a little bit of time. And then up until December 12, you'll have that time to clear up any missed opportunities, to make sure you're back on the same page with someone and kind of end the year on a high note in that regard. Now, when it comes to happiness, joy, fun in life, the South Node is going to be there all year. So the South Node will move in about January 12. And that can be a little bit of a buzzkill to have the South Node moving through the 5th. However, it's going to ask you, what does happiness really mean to you? And that might mean you need to change things up. You might need to really analyze, am I doing things just for the sake of doing things, or is this really what I want? So you really need to lean into the Virgo part of this area of your life and pull apart the pieces, analyze them, separating the wheat from the chaff. So if you're doing things just for the sake of doing them, don't do them anymore. If you're in a creative outlet or something of that nature that you're not enjoying it anymore, then don't do it anymore. So you're going to have two eclipses. One's going to be the full moon in March, and the second one will be the new moon in September. So it is going to be, as I said, a wheat from the chaff cycle, and you might have to let go of some things, whether that is your attachment to things, the things that didn't work out, whether those were real or whether those were imagined. And this could have to do with love, romance, children. So you want to clear out any baggage from those things, the old romances that didn't work out, maybe the creative projects that didn't come off the ground for whatever reason. Let them go, clear the slate, renew your joy. So the new moon in September looks a little bit more promising, which is a solar eclipse. It might be a little challenging though, with the opposition to Saturn, but these new beginnings can have that potential to endure. They may take time, but if you've done the work, figured out what you want, then yeah, it may not be quite so difficult. So we're nearly there. Friends. So friends, groups, communities, just that kind of luck, the pennies from heaven sort of stuff with the 11th house. It's going to be a big year for you in that area because the influx of planets being there, leaving, coming back, plus Venus retrograde, who is your ruler too. So to sum up that phase for you, I think 2025 is going to be a year where you're going to see or you're going to learn who is in your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And this is part of what Saturn is already bringing to the table. Saturn in the 11th can really bring a quality control. Who's in your circle? You know how they say the top 5 people in your life are the ones that are going to influence you the most? So if you're not happy with where you're going, well, you need to adjust accordingly. You might find that you'll have to have tighter boundaries with some people and hold them at a distance, while others you will draw closer to. Now, Neptune. So Neptune can bring a confusing bias into friendships. So it's going to exit from the 30th of March to the 22nd of October. During that period, you may see some friends in a new light. It's like you've become friendship sober. Like, what was I doing hanging around that group? Or what was I really thinking that they were even my friends? Those type of scenarios. So you might be straddling this energy between being compassionate and empathetic towards a certain person, group of friends, community group, whatever. Or was I deceived or lacking in boundaries? Sometimes it can be a little bit of both. Maybe, you're going to have to figure that one out. And Saturn can help. Saturn is that quality controller. And so Saturn will exit from the 25th of May to September 1. So when those two planets are not in your 12th house, they'll be in not in your 11th, they'll be in your 12th. That's going to be your time really to start thinking, wow, my friends, like, are they really in my corner or are they pretending? Are they frenemies? If those are your friends, who needs enemies? All these sorts of things, all these questions. Now, keep in mind too, for part of this, Uranus isn't going to be in your first anymore. So there's going to be a real change there. You're just going to see everything a little bit differently. So you'll be less patient, I would imagine, with inconsistency, or those who lack in reliability. And once Saturn and Neptune come back into your 11th house from September and then again in October, that's when things will become really crystal clear and really obvious to you. So just to follow on from that journey, as those planets leave Pisces temporarily, they're going to go into your 12th. This is going to be a journey of trusting instincts, even if it doesn't make logical sense or you can't connect the dots. This is going to be a period where you can clear some baggage. So start doing the work with that to make 2026 a little bit easier. You might have to make some peace with the past, let go of any unfulfilled dreams, and then of course rest. So this year overall it's very internal. It's working out what's right for you, who's right for you, and what action steps are you going to take to ensure that that happens for you. So I hope that you found this helpful, insightful, and useful. All will be revealed, of course, as we move into 2025. And of course, if you would like further insight into how these energies work for you as a Taurus rising, do feel free to reach out, book a reading. I'd love to share more insight with you. So until next time, I hope you've enjoyed this video.